Hi, everybody. I'm Dustin.
I'm Onna.
And we are not qualified to investigate the paranormal.
But we might be more qualified than
a 19th century slave owner.
Yeah, we're more qualified for a lot of things.
I agree. Than a 19th century slave owner.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, welcome back, everybody, to the pod, to the cast, to the podcast that is Paranormal Outsiders. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we have been on a bit of a sabbatical.
A wee bit.
It's been a year and a half.
Oh my gosh, has it?
It might be 2 years, actually.
2 years?
I think so. It might be 2 years since the last time we put out an episode. But look, a lot of things have happened. We've gotten a little older. We've gotten a little wiser.
You've gotten a little PhD.
I've gotten a little PhD-er. It has nothing to do with this podcast, but it is an accomplishment, and it was a shit show for a very long time in my personal life. So we had to put something on hold. Something had to give. And unfortunately, that was the podcast. But we're back. We're back, and we're back for Halloween night. Woo. 2025. And we're going to be talking about, I went back on and I was listening to some of our older episodes, and
I'm glad somebody prepared for this.
I'm glad somebody was listening to our episodes. But not only was I listening to the episodes, but I was also kind of reviewing and looking at the data for, what people listen to. And, what's really surprising is, although we haven't put out a new episode in well over a year, probably longer, people still listen.
That's great.
On a daily basis, we have people listening to the different shows.
Yeah, these stories in particular are classic, timeless. We're not really talking about current events.
Yeah, and we're actually the story we're talking about tonight is arguably the most classic and timeless story that for American folklore, I think that we have. So, so we've got a great story for you all tonight. We're not going to go too much into, we're going to dive into the story itself, but I do want to let everybody know that we've also still been monitoring stories at paranormaloutsiders.com. If you have any input for us, or you want to suggest any stories for us, or you want to say, hey, I was part of that story and you guys got it wrong, or hey, I think you guys are full of shit, please feel free to email us there. We've seen a few things come through there. So pretty interesting stuff that you guys are sending us. Keep them coming. Also on our YouTube channel, which this will be released on as well. Feel free to comment on those as well. I noticed that not too many people comment on the YouTube thing. I think because we are more of an audio format, and I think we want to keep it that way. We might do video.
Yeah.
In the relative future, but for now, I think we kind of like keeping it where we're at. So
yeah, I like that. I am in my pajamas and my glasses on my couch.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think we're ready to go ahead and just kick into this story. Because it is Halloween night when this will be released, we picked the most classic American folklore story. And you did some prep work for this too, Anna. You actually watched the documentary with me.
I endured the documentary with you.
You did fall asleep
I
for
asleep. I did.
For like the past 45 minutes, you definitely fell asleep, which was really interesting because that's kind of when they tied everything together to like how this particular story affected American folklore. It took from it, of course, but it also gave to it. So really interesting story.
Yeah. And then you gave me a synopsis, and I read the Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
That's obviously, As a psychologist, that does not constitute thorough research.
No, but I think that the Wikipedia page is really well put together. I think that the documentary was actually pretty well done for the budget that they obviously had, which was nothing. And the reenactments, the actors for the reenactments were great. The wig for the main guy was terrible, but other than that, it was good. And then they did put a lot of really interesting facts about this story. And kind of what makes this story so interesting is somebody wrote a book about it kind of around the time where there were still people alive who heard it. Like the story happened in the early 1800s. I haven't even told you the name of the story yet. And the story that we're going to talk about tonight is the Bell Witch. So I'm sure some of you have heard about it. The story here is a big one for American folk tales for American folklore as well as for American ghost stories just in general. And I think, we'll go ahead and go into it. There's a couple of different parts here, and then we're going to go into some of the ideas that people have, put out there throughout the years on what this possibly could be. So, ready to start?
Tell me a story.
The first part of the story is called The First Night. It began as most hauntings do, without warning. In the summer of 1817, John Bell stepped out onto his farm in northern Tennessee, just as the sun was melting into the horizon. The land was quiet. Too quiet, he would later say, when he noticed something strange moving between the rows of corn. At first, he thought it was a large animal, maybe a dog or a wolf, but as he drew closer, the shape seemed wrong. Its body twisted, its head unnaturally large. Hey there! Get on now! The creature stopped, turned its head and stared. Its eyes gleamed like wet coal in the dying light. John raised his musket, fired, and when the smoke cleared, there was nothing there. No body, no tracks. He swallowed hard and whispered to himself, "Ain't right. Something ain't right here." John returned to the house shaken but silent. His wife, Lucy, was preparing supper, and the children sat near the fire. "You're pale, John. Everything all right out there?" "Just saw a critter in the corn. Strange looking thing. Must have been a trick of the light." That night, when the family finally settled into bed, the scratching began. His youngest daughter said, "Pa, you hear that?" John replied, "Was that okay?" Yeah. Okay.
You have to do multiple voices, so your register gets higher with the younger everybody gets.
Yeah, the little girl, Betsy, of course.
That's great.
John replied, "It's just mice, Betsy. Go on to sleep now." But it wasn't mice. Scraping, tapping, dragging sounds filled the small cabin. They searched the house, every corner and crevice, but found nothing. By morning, the noises stopped, but the next night they returned, louder, angrier, and closer to the children's bed. The Bell family had no idea that this was only the beginning. What they had heard in the dark would soon speak to them, mock them, and tear their lives apart. And that's the end of the first part. So, we've talked about this before on the podcast. Small farmhouse, scratching noises, the creaking. It's not... it is what it is. Seeing the weird thing in the corn, yeah. I mean, we saw weird shit in the corn too. But and we'll get into this, I think, as we get into watching the documentary. You actually postulated some things that you were like, wait, like who was John Bell? Where was he originally from? Did he understand like this area and all the critters that live there?
Yeah, because it had said that he recently moved there,
right?
And so I looked up that he wasn't originally a farmer. He worked in a different business.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was, and that he had bought that, or he became a farmer in his adult years, and then he had most recently just moved there.
Right.
So when a place is unfamiliar and you might not know the wildlife of that area, or you're living pretty remote, everything so far just points to animals. Right.
And the other part to this too is like, I don't know, like this guy just moved here. He's talking. The other part to this is called the Bell Witch. Where the fuck is the witch? Like,
oh yeah. I mean,
what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
And so like it does eventually kind of go into it, into how this possibly could be a witch. And like when we watched the documentary, there were some folklorists, a PhD folklorist actually from the area who were kind of like, I don't know what their PhD was in, but they taught folklore at the local college and, or one of the colleges in Tennessee. And he said that, a witch was originally just like a spirit. Like it's just a kind of a name you gave to a spirit. It didn't necessarily mean it was a, woman in the woods. Like, but also I kind of find that hard to believe because the witch trials were long before this.
Yeah.
And so the word witch was in our vernacular, was on like the American zeitgeist for a very long time before this came out. And so anyway, we can continue on the story, but I just wanted to like throw that out there. Like while you're listening to this, kind of keep that in mind that, yeah, they're calling this the Bell Witch. It kind of gets witchier, but not really. And I don't know. You guys will have to decide for yourself what you think about this story.
Yeah, there's no, so far, human witch form at all. Yeah.
Right. Right. And I don't even remember if there is one. We got to get to the end of the story.
I don't think there is. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to get to the end of the story. Part 2 is called The Voice in the Dark. By the end of 1817, the Bell family had grown used to living on edge. Each night brought new disturbances, the scraping of invisible nails, thuds from the attic, the sound of something pacing from room to room. One night after Betsy was attacked, John finally spoke up at the dinner table. "We can't keep pretending like this ain't happening. Lucy, call for James Johnston. I want him to see this for himself." Lucy replied, "You think the Lord's testing us, John?" John replied, "If he is, I reckon we need witnesses."
What was Betsy's first attack like?
I don't know why I didn't go into this.
I'm like, what? I remember it from the documentary. But
Suddenly, Betsy was attacked. This is very Star Wars for everybody who's listening. Suddenly, the Emperor was alive. Suddenly, Betsy was attacked.
Yeah.
She got slapped in the face constantly by this thing. So like she physically got slapped in the face and like woken up out of her night, out of her sleep and stuff like that. But
she didn't report seeing anything. She was being slapped by an apparition.
An unseen force, right? Like she would hear the scratching and get slapped. So sorry I left it out, guys, but roll with it.
Someone were attacked.
Right. And so then they're calling James Johnston, who's a friend of, here, I'll get into it. There we go. James Johnston was a respected neighbor of the Bell family, living not far from John Bell's Red River farm. He and his wife were devout Christians and well-known members of the local community. James Johnston and his wife came that week to stay the night. Just after midnight, the quiet broke with a loud knock on the wall. James woke up startled. "Good Lord, what was that?" "That's what we've been hearing every night." The scratching turned into pounding. Then a sound like heavy chains dragged across the floor. Then faintly a whisper. "Who's there?" Betsy said aloud. A woman's voice replied, low and rasping. "I am the spirit. I was once happy, but I have been disturbed."
That's pretty creepy.
James stood up trembling. "In the name of the Lord, who are you? What do you want with this house?" The voice laughed, a sound that chilled everyone to the bone. From that night on, the voice never left. It sang hymns, quoted scripture, and mocked John Bell every time he entered the room. The voice said, "Old Jack Bell, I'll get you yet." Each night, Betsy was slapped, her hair pulled, her prayers interrupted by mocking laughter. Betsy was crying. "Why me? Why, what did I do to you?" The voice softly replied, "Because you believe, child." Neighbors came from miles around to witness the haunting. The voice answered questions no one else could have known, repeating private conversations and revealing secrets it shouldn't have known. And as the winter crept in, the voice grew louder, more aggressive, and fixated on one thing, John Bell's death.
So it's a disembodied voice in the house that like multiple visitors have corroborated?
Yeah.
According to them, like there's like a folklore around this, or there's like written...
There's written accounts, especially from the Johnstons, I believe, who were the friends, the neighbor friends.
Okay. And did anybody... This house was there? They moved into this house. Is there any history of the house?
Okay. And I don't think we might not talk about this. Actually, we do talk about it, I think, in the like the conclusions, but this is a plantation in the South, antebellum South. And it is, he has slaves. Yes,
he's a slave owner. He had like...
I think 10 slaves.
Yeah.
Is what he had. And hence our beginning. And so this dude, John Bell, has slaves. The house, I think the house and the plantation were there obviously before they got there, because there's no mention of them building it.
Yeah.
And them being like, this was John's new house that he built. Usually that would be mentioned in a story like this. Maybe not, but either way. So that's something. It is an old house. But even then, like, look, I have a hard time with ghost stories where they're like, the house history, people died in this house. I'm like, yeah, if the house was built, pre-50, even probably after 1950, people have probably died in your house. Like, sorry, like that's just something that happens. Like people die in houses.
Because elder care has changed and people died in their homes more often than they do now. Healthcare has changed. Elder care has changed. Yeah, 100%. And The other,
or not. Like hospice is in-home hospice is a thing. Like my grandmother and grandfather both died in their home, and it was
because they wanted to. Yeah.
And it was recent. This is recent, right?
Yeah.
So within the past 10, 15 years. So
that's a really good point. It's just interesting to note that that isn't included. Like this voice, this disembodied voice is clearly very contemporary to them. Like they understood what it was saying.
And it was talking in scripture.
Spoke in English. It's saying scripture of their Bible that they understood. So it's very much representing that community and that culture of that time. So you would think that they would make some inferences about who it was. Yeah. If anything, because it's chose the daughter, it's sounding like what we would describe as demonic.
Right. And they asked it though. They were like, who are you? What do you want? Right. And it just, I don't know, laughed at them. I was like, ha, and here's some scripture and John Bellman kill you. Like,
yeah, that
was kind of its main thing, is it really wasn't going after Betsy, although Betsy got the brunt of the physical aspects of this apparition. But John Bell was like its target apparently.
Which is, yeah. I have a theory we'll go into.
Okay.
I know later, but.
So, and this is actually a really good segue into part 3, which is the torment of John Bell.
Okay.
By 1818, the Bell home had become a place of dread. The spirit calling itself Kate no longer hid in whispers. It laughed, shouted, and taunted in daylight. Kate would say such things as, "Oh, Jack Bell, you can't hide from me." John Bell's health began to crumble. His tongue swelled, his jaw locked, and he'd collapse mid-prayer. Lucy would kneel beside his bed. John, speak to me." John could barely whisper. She's here again." The spirit's voice rang out triumphant. "Old Jack, going to die soon." Neighbors arrived in disbelief, only to witness the strange attacks themselves. It's like she knows what's coming every time she calls it before it happens. Even ministers tried to banish the spirit, reading scripture and commanding it to leave. The ministers would say things such as, "In the name of Christ, depart from this home." Kate would only laugh. Oh, preacher, your faith is weak." Meanwhile, Betsy suffered her own torment. Whenever she met her suitor, Joshua Gardner, near the river, the air turned cold and her hair was yanked by unseen hands. Betsy would talk to Josh. "Josh, she doesn't want us together." Joshua would reply, "Let her scream. I'll protect you, Betsy." Kate would hiss at him, You'll never marry Joshua Gardner." Terrified, Betsy eventually broke off the engagement. Then, in December of 1820, John Bell was found, lifeless in his bed. Beside him was a small vial of dark liquid. "What is that?" Lucy asked. John Jr., who we haven't heard from yet, but he's been around too. "I've never seen nothing like it." They turned to the spirit. Lucy said angrily, "Was this your doing?" Kate gleefully answered, I gave old Jack a big dose last night, and he'll never get up again." At the funeral, mourners swear they heard the witch singing in the trees, her laughter carried by the wind. The neighbors would say, shuddering, "She's celebrating his death." After that, she vanished, or so they thought. So, a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
Lucy was engaged.
Betsy?
I'm sorry, Betsy was engaged.
Lucy's the wife, right?
Yeah, Lucy's the wife. Betsy was engaged, and Josh Jr. was hanging out this whole time that we never mentioned him, because he really wasn't. And to be honest with you, even in the documentary, like, he wasn't mentioned. He was just kind of like, yeah, he was there, but
because I was definitely asleep at that point.
Yeah, he was never around. So Betsy was engaged to this dude. Dude, was like, whatever. And then she was like, no, this, entity is making my life a living hell. And then apparently the entity, in order to, like, for all of its supernatural glory and capabilities, it found a vial of poison and gave it to John.
And so did Josh corroborate that he had heard Kate?
I don't know,
because it's all Kate like reports out of the house, right? Like the stories coming from the household.
Kate did.
Yeah.
So Kate was like, Josh heard it.
Wait, Kate's the witch, right?
Oh, sorry. Lucy.
Okay.
Wait, no. Betsy.
Betsy is the daughter.
Betsy's the daughter. Lucy is the wife.
And Kate is why do they call the witch Kate?
It had named itself that.
It named it. Okay.
Yeah. At some point.
Okay. all of this is coming from like the house is telling these stories to people.
Yes.
Okay, like
the people inside of the house,
in the house. So
not the
Josh,
house itself.
No, I know, but
That's
I mean,
weird.
like,
this is a paranormal podcast. You got to be specific when you say stuff like
right?
that.
Sorry,
like
the
house is
windows were
talking.
opening and closing.
Yeah.
No. Okay, and Josh didn't live there. He was like courting Betsy. Do we know how old she was at this point? Like how
I
many
don't know,
years this
12?
whole thing went on?
It was Tennessee in 1821.
Well, so that's part of my theory. But what do you think? What else do you want to say about it? Like,
what else do I want to say about that?
I mean,
I don't think
feel like
anything yet.
Wasn't there like a book written about it like 70 years later, like
Yes.
in the 1890s? Like one of the earliest sort of anthropological ghost story.
One of the first, truly like published American folk tales or American folklore. I think you can easily say it's probably one of the first ever paranormal published pieces of work.
Yeah, because it wasn't
True
published as a
story
folktale. It was like this is a documentation of something
Of a witch,
of something of a.
You can argue that the Crucible, or I guess not the Crucible, but like those documents from the time that the Crucible was written about is technically about like, the devil and the witches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But this isn't, and this is called the Bell Witch, but this is more of a poltergeist, right? Like it's the activity that's happening is poltergeisty, not witchy. Like a witch would be a physical being that would come in and poison somebody, but
right. In our contemporary classifications and our understanding of the 200 years preceding this, that wouldn't have called it a witch. Yeah. It's really confusing. But so that kind of book that was written had interviews, or was it more told through the lore of the community 7 years later?
I have to confess, I did not read the book.
You didn't read the book from 1890. No,
I didn't
have a lot of time this week to do that.
But you know what? That documentary read like freaking 1,000 pages of it and put it on the screen. So
oh my God,
was
it
written
did.
in
it
like
was
late
that's
1800s.
part of when I started
English
falling asleep.
So it was like 5 pages, just
It was
kept
like
scrolling.
Speaking of Star Wars, it was scrolling text,
Yeah.
and they were just reading and reading and reading.
And look, don't get me wrong. Like I really do think that the people who made the movie did the best job they could. You can find it on, I think, Amazon Prime if you want to watch it. But what was it called? We'll have to look. We'll put it in the show
I think
notes.
just the Bell Witch. But what struck me about the documentary was it was not objective at all. Like it really told it as a quote reenactment of a ghost story, and they people they interviewed, while some were a little more objective, like the PhD who came back to town, the area.
Yeah.
He was a little more objective, but then everybody else was just really locals who believed it as part of their lore.
Until you fell asleep, and then those people kind of came back and gave their own theories as what they thought happened.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, and then one more question before we go into that, because I really want to hear. Did
we
it
got one
say?
more part, but then we'll go
you
into
do?
theories.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
please. Okay, because that'll probably answer my question.
Okay. Oh, maybe not. Okay. So part 4 is called The Legacy. After John Bell's death, the voice of Kate grew quiet. By 1821, the Bell home had returned to uneasy silence, but the damage was done. 7 years later, the witch returned to speak to John Bell Jr. I've come to finish our talk, John. The world's changing. Remember what I told your father. Not all spirits rest. For 3 weeks, she spoke of faith, the afterlife, and mankind's fate. Then vanished, promising to return in 107 years. In 1935, locals claimed they still heard faint laughter in the cave along Red River, what we now call the Bell Witch Cave. Over time, the hauntings became heritage. Families told the story by firelight, children daring each other to call her name after dark. Even General Andrew Jackson was said to have visited the Bell farm. By the eternal, boys, that must be the Bell Witch herself. That night, his horses refused to move, and something unseen struck the wagon. The soldiers were scared. General, maybe we ought to turn back. Aye, maybe she's proved her point, said General Jackson. Historians debate what truly happened in Adams, Tennessee, but the stories remain eyewitness accounts, old letters, and whispers from the cave. Some visitors today claim they can hear footsteps, laughter, or voices saying their name. The Bell Witch may be folklore, or she may still be waiting, because legends don't fade away. They wait in the dark until someone calls their name. And that's the story of the Bell Witch, the haunting that turned a Tennessee farmhouse into one of America's earliest and most chilling ghost stories.
Ooh,
Yeah, I kind of
my
skirted
name's
over.
Kate. What a scary name.
I kind of skirted over one of our presidents.
One of our most asshole presidents.
Yeah, who was like, let's go, boys. We're gonna go find out what the hell's going on in Tennessee at the Bell Witch House. So yeah, we kind of skirted by that, but this was, I think that just kind of speaks to how popular this story was even back then. Because if you get a book published, you get a book published now, you could self-publish now, right? And you can just put something out on the internet, and then you can be like, oh, I'm published. But back then, you had to know rich white guys who owned a printing press. That was really it. So the guy who wrote this story, obviously he knew somebody, or he was an author already, and got this story published. And so everybody in the United States had read, people who were interested read this, but also was one of 10 books available. So,
So can I ask some questions about, John Bell?
yeah.
Wasn't this his death, or if the Wikipedia page was correct, did you confirm that this is one of the few times that a person was documented to have died by supernatural causes?
I didn't do any research on anything.
So I saw that line, but if the poisoning was so clearly the cause, and then also he might have had some other long-standing neurological disorder before that might have explained his medical issues.
Yeah. So John Bell's death was attributed to the Bell Witch, making Tennessee the only state to recognize a person's death to the supernatural.
That's so bonkers.
Yeah.
There are clearly other causes, he
was
the actual
poisoned.
poison, and then his medical condition. That's so wild. So that's to me what stands out about this case the most is its implications for law, kind of like Zona Hester.
Yeah.
That's really wild to
I
me.
have five popular theories on this.
Let's go into those, because then I can
let me knock
piece
these
together.
out.
Wasn't he, that was my other question about him, what did you say was kind of a jerk? Another, in the community? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was a slave owner, so, but, who knows? Maybe everybody was back then.
No,
not
everybody was.
Okay, every rich white guy was back then.
So what we saw in the documentary was this was a fairly poor community. So that would have been a little bit unusual. So he might have been seen as a person with power and influence in his church and in his community.
Okay. I think he had enemies, for sure.
Okay.
Let's see. Actually, I think
theories.
God, didn't he get taken to court? Anyway, that might have been one of the things.
This is all really relevant as a psychologist. If I'm piecing together,
Well, then you should have done some research.
I should have. But tell me the 5 theories, and then I'll just throw at you what, I'm not doing a profile on him. I'm just kind of piecing together some things and throw out alternative explanations aside from a witch.
Okay. Well, these 5 theories might be supernatural. So all of them. So theory number 1 is the disturbed burial ground.
Oh, yeah.
One of the earliest folk explanations, and one that's still talked about in Adams, Tennessee, is that the Bell Farm sat on top of an ancient Native American burial site. Locals claim that John Bell and his sons found bones, pottery shards, even fragments of skulls when they plowed their fields. And when strange things started happening, folks said the family must have disturbed a sacred resting place. The Bell property sits right near Red River, a region in which Mississippi-era artifacts, a region rich in Mississippi-era artifacts and mound-building culture. So even if there was no direct archaeological proof, it's plausible that the land carried a deep spiritual history, one that settlers didn't fully understand, or they didn't care about because they were assholes. And that ties into the spirit's first words to the Bells: "I was once happy, but I have been disturbed." If that's not a clue, it's hard to imagine what else it could mean. It's not hard to imagine that what they called Kate might have been something far older than any human grudge, maybe a guardian spirit awakened and angry.
2 things about that. One more logical and then one more cultural. But the logical, why would the poltergeist present in such a... if it had something to do with indigenous people, and then it would present itself as a English-speaking Christian, that's kind of unusual, but that's just a logical thing. None of this is logical.
Because it had to communicate.
Right. It can make a choice, whatever. It's magical. But to me, that very tropey, like you described a Native American burial ground or a sacred place, it's such a
tropey because of this.
It's right. It might have been, this might be the origin of the poltergeist story of America, but I don't think so, because you and I had both mentioned that we'd never even heard of this, but it doesn't mean has not influenced our popular culture of the last 40 years.
Well, real quick though on that, like if you disturb a grave even today, like it's considered bad luck or you shouldn't do it. It's taboo.
It's taboo.
It's nasty.
Because things are sacred.
Right.
Yeah.
Death is sacred. Because we all did, even if you find, I don't know, I'm going to say even if you find somebody inhuman, which I can't relate to, but they clearly did, like, oh, hey, look, Indian bones. Let's, use the skull as a coffee mug. I don't know what they did with it, but if they desecrated it or whatever, the point being is like, I think even back then, like you understood that you shouldn't mess with a dead body, like or human remains.
If you thought they were human and if you thought they were equal to you, I think a lot of this reflects we desecrated the whole country as European colonists, and there's an element, I think, of that trope of the disturbing an Indian burial ground as just reflecting a white guilt about how we found this land. Okay, and so I think there's like. That came from the community of people in Tennessee, not from an indigenous group. Did they go back and actually confirm any of this with, Native Americans from that region? I don't know. Like they didn't make any effort to actually make amends for that. So it seems more like a self-generated explanation that is self-referential to colonists, not to like them. They're actually being any recognized phenomena around indigenous peoples' burial grounds.
Also, there's just like a anthropological kind of like we bury our dead far away. We don't go back and mess with the remains because that spreads disease, and it's, so there's that part too to it where it's not just, oh, we feel bad about messing with it. It's like, no, you stay away from the dead bodies because, you bury the dead bodies downhill from where the water source.
It's
like
not
all
a
those,
smart thing to do. It's a biological advantage to not do that. And it also is sacred. It's taboo to touch it. And also at the same time, Dustin, development is happening on burial grounds all the time. Like, it happens all the time. So
this house is probably on top of a burial ground.
Yeah, of some sort. Yeah. Whether it be people used to bury their loved ones at the bottom of the hill in their own yard without having to get, town approval to do it. Like, so that just a known, you can make up that anywhere was a burial ground and it could be a convenient explanation. Yeah. So that's kind of all of my dismantling of that trope.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the second theory.
Thank you.
The version most people know is the Kate Batts theory, that the spirit of a ghost of a neighbor, Kate Batts, who believed John Bell cheated her in a land deal. Historically, it doesn't hold up very well. Kate Batts was eccentric, known for her fiery temper, but she was still alive during the haunting. Okay. There's no evidence she ever claimed to curse John Bell, but stories evolve. In frontier communities, reputations travel fast. Kate Batts, witch, became an easy way to label the unexplained.
Oh, there's
a name to hang
witch piece.
The fear on. And the fact that the spirit called itself Kate might just have been psychological, the family projecting the name that they already feared. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. Like this goes right back to like the witch theory. Like, she was like eccentric, known for her fiery temper. Okay. So she was a woman who wasn't just like, yes, sir, Mr. Sir, whatever you say, sir.
But there was a Kate that John Bell would say he had a resentment and a beef with.
Yeah.
Okay. That's important. Add that to my profile here.
Okay. Theory 3, a poltergeist phenomena. And this is the one that, makes more sense. Makes more sense in parapsychology. The Bell Witch was really a poltergeist event centered on Betsy Bell. The theory fits the pattern. A young adolescent girl, high stress, unexplained physical activity tied to emotion, the slaps, the bed shaking, the disembodied voice. It's textbook poltergeist behavior. The activity seemed to focus on Betsy, and once she grew, except for it killed John, and once she grew older and moved away, the haunting subsided. That could mean that the energy coming from her was subconsciously an external manifestation or trauma or pressure. In that case, the haunting wasn't really caused by something outside of the family. It was caused by the family.
Yeah, that's very circular.
I like it. I think, not so much the paranormal side of that, but like the actual, Betsy, her dad was an asshole. Who knows, she may have been, who knows what was going on inside that house. I think you found out that, I don't want to steal your thunder here if you want to say
No. Yeah. Yeah. You're just making me think so many things right now that I don't want to forget. But, I think it's quite likely that there was trauma and something of abuse happening in that house. Because piecing things together, one piece, and obviously this is taken in context is relevant, but John Bell was 32 when he married Lucy at the age of 12. And as much as we'd like to say, oh, that was normal at the time, a 12-year-old is a 12-year-old, and it might not have been normal in her community. Especially if they were maybe middle class in the career that he had. And I can't remember what career he had, but from
what I understand in Tennessee, they're trying to make it normal again.
Oh yeah. Whatever, but that's legal is not the same as normal and adaptive and good for a family or a community. And I don't think, I don't know that there's any time in history that it was universally accepted for a prepubescent, a 12-year-old girl, that everybody in the community would just accept it. In at least in Western society, I don't think that was the case, especially if you're middle class, which I think they were. There's a reason he left his job and his community. We don't know what that was. We don't know why he decided to move, to a more rural and isolated area with his young bride and many children. So he's into 12-year-olds. Okay. That's a fact. He was into 12-year-olds at some point. Then he has a daughter who's of that age when this starts to happen to her, like this haunting happens. This is the main explanation for the Salem witch trials, is that young adolescents, especially girls in a very puritanical or controlling society, are not provided with psychological support, resources, or ways to express themselves.
I'm not provided with that now.
Yeah. And so in our, so we have an adolescent mental health crisis now, but so imagine between 1600 and 1800, things weren't better. And so when girls were in acute distress, they were very easily, led to all the variety of behaviors and all the things that happened in the Salem witch trials, of calling someone else a witch, of lying about behaviors, of doing things that, natural adolescent behaviors that happen. All of that aside, that's one whole thing. It was within an adolescent girl's repertoire to say, there's this evil spirit here. That's easier to say than something bad is happening in my house. I'm being abused, or especially not sexually abused by my father. And if he's a controlling abuser with a very intricate history of this, as an abuser, it's really common for abusers to tell the victims threats. If you tell anyone this is happening, or to convince them, especially if it's their own kid, incest, it's very common to convince that child that that's normal, and then that's our special secret, and then to make up all sorts of other secrets to bring them into your own paranoid world. So if he also, I think, probably had some sort of paranoid issues, it's like maybe some psychopathy.
Yeah.
So he's paranoid about his neighbors getting into his house. Yeah. He's paranoid about this Kate woman that he had a beef with, and he might have been, we don't know. He might have had a psychosis of some sort.
And there were other people who heard it, though, at least according to
That's the trickiest part. That is the part that for me is, did they hear it, or did he talk about it and have his kids talk about it? And it gets talked about so that rumors become stories.
That's part 4 and part 5 here.
Thank you.
Theory 4 is religious and psychological guilt.
Yeah.
Another angle scholars have explored is religious guilt and mass hysteria, which mass hysteria is not the proper terminology. It is
panic, shared, what is it?
Sorry, I put you on the
didn't
spot.
set me up for this one. Oh, what is it? I just thought about the term. It's contagion, like paranoid, like sorry.
I'll let you look
think
it up.
about it.
The Bells were a deeply Christian family living in a time when sin, faith, and punishment were constant concerns. The early 1800s in rural Tennessee was the height of the revivalist Christianity movement. People believed the devil was real and active in the world. I mean, okay, I think people still believe that. So hearing voices or witnessing strange events might have been interpreted through the spiritual lens. John Bell was a community leader, a deacon. If there were financial disputes, secret tensions, or even guilt around a rumored land deals, those anxieties could have taken on a life of their own. The haunting might have been a form of collective moral reckoning. And Theory 5, real quick, the power of story. Maybe the simplest explanation of all, storytelling. The Bell Witch tale grew with every retelling, and each generation added new details, new motives, and new horrors. Folklore evolves to fit what people needed to explain. In the community that lived close to the land, feared the unknown, and respected the supernatural, the Bell Witch became a kind of cultural mirror reflecting both fear and faith. I love that verbiage. Sorry. And maybe that's why she's still around. Whether she's real or not, the Bell Witch endures because she represents what we can't quite explain, that thin line between belief and reason.
I like that. A mirror.
Yeah, the mirror reflect, because I think, my PhD is in something, and it is in technology related field. And I think that reflecting of ourselves is a big theme that I see a lot of, especially in social media, right? And especially in AI, where, we get so scared and we get so freaked out about stuff like that. But that's neither here or there. So the two things that we just talked about were religious and psychological guilt and the power of story. And the name of mass hysteria is?
One of them is mass psychogenic illness.
I like that.
Yeah, MPI, which is an acronym for the other things. I was thinking like epidemic hysteria is another word, but it still uses the word hysteria. So then there's like emotional contagion is the most all-encompassing. Emotional contagion. Emotions are contagious.
Yeah. So I liked the last two I like a lot, religious and psychological guilt and the power of story. The power of story more than anything, I think, I think that the book wasn't written until 1890, right? And John Bell died in 1820 something. And so like there's that huge gap, right? Of time where a legend can grow a beard, if you will. There's time for that to kind of sink into a community, for it to spin out of control in different directions. The revivalist movement was happening in America at that time. So it was kind of a perfect storm of this kind of story to come out. And I really like that. I really like that that's like a theory, right?
Yeah,
so
we're storytelling. I mean, humans want stories, and we want local stories. We want our community stories too. And they can reflect what's going on in our community.
Yeah. I think one of the beautiful, and I think that this story in itself, in and of itself, is actually a really beautiful story too. And I know that we're like, it's so tropey. But that's because it's like when you go back and you watch Citizen Kane,
and you're like, that's so tropey. No, that's the original.
Yeah, that's the original,
that's where it came
right?
from. Yeah.
And so this is like the Citizen Kane of American folklore. But even the folklorist from the documentary was like, oh no, it's taking from themes here and taking from Native American themes and taking from Eastern European or European and Eastern European themes. Like he built it up as like, these are what our settlers were kind of dealing with, right? And if you think about it, like settlers or, imperialistic bastards or whatever you want to call them, like people who were coming into other people's land, like those people were scared as hell too. Like they didn't know what animals were around. They didn't know what plants were edible. They didn't know how to survive in the climate. One of the things that's coming up pretty soon is Thanksgiving. And, regardless of where you kind of stand, which is weird that I even have to say this, where you stand on the subject of Thanksgiving, something did occur in that Native Americans helped the Puritans who were escaping from, quote unquote, escaping from British non-puritanical society. And so it's amazing to me, first of all, that the Puritans were like, yeah, we'll accept your help, because they had to accept their help because they didn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
But they would have seen them as even more heathenistic than heathen. Not
They're the
hedon.
same root word, but yeah.
Okay. The Latin. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Heathens.
They would have seen them as like more of a, non-Christian following than even the people that they were quote unquote running from. And so, but it, that still did happen. There still was this, you're a human. The Native Americans realized you're a human as well. And we need to help you survive, because you're going to die the way that you guys are doing things right now. You are going to die in the winter. So we're going to try to help you out as best we can, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so there's that interesting thing, but either way, like, you have these stories that kind of come out of that unknowing. And I think, the last two things, religious, psychological guilt, and the power of story, really encapsulate that very human behavior of, we need to explain the unexplainable. We need to have something. If there's something we don't understand, the easiest thing to do is to attach something otherworldly to it. Back then, and I'd say even now today, like if you watch these videos on YouTube where it's like, it's a ghost, I'm like, that's dust. Or that's, that's compression error in a video. It's easier to just be like, it's a ghost, and that, I don't know. I just feel like there's so many times in, the quote unquote paranormal world where people want to quickly point to, something paranormal, because it is, I think it is easier. It's the single bullet theory. It's the that one thing explains everything.
Yeah.
And
the person, and if John Bell was experiencing this as a hallucination, the most common themes of auditory or visual hallucinations and delusions are religious themes.
Why is that?
I think you just answered the question. Like, it's so deeply embedded in our culture.
But before that, it had to be something, right?
We don't have data before the 1600s on this, but probably don't really have data before the 1800s, but it is
the greatest flaw in science
in the contemporary era. Like, there are thematic elements for psychotic disorders and schizophrenia, delusional disorders. Like, we have these themes of delusions of grandeur. You've heard of that one? Like, I'm a god. I'm
every
the
Star
greatest.
Wars
I can
film.
fly.
Yeah.
Or delusions, magical abilities, supernatural powers. We also have religious and delusions of religious persecution too. So my sort of guess or hypothesis about what might have been happening could be that he could have been just an abuser or making it up to explain why his daughter was being abused at night, like who was doing it. He could have also been hallucinating. He could have had a psychosis, and he could have brought people into his house saying, like, let me tell you what happened. He's telling everyone, and it's so compelling and believable because they believe in spirits, demons, witches. They have this belief, and he's experiencing it because he has that belief, and it's also combining with a psychological disorder. So, I mean, that could explain why it just is this cycle of it just keeps happening.
Yeah.
It could also explain why, 7 or 8 years later, his son goes on to experience something similar, perhaps of the age of those symptoms coming on.
Yeah. I like that.
And it's his father, so there's a biological predisposition, and he grew up with it, so there's a trauma background of having experienced his father's psychosis in the house.
So
abuse of his sister potentially.
One of the things that I didn't see in my research, but was shown in the documentary, was that Betsy had a suitor before Joshua. And Betsy, the suitor was like he was like a professor or something who was into the occult, and John Bell didn't approve of him being the suitor. Mm-hmm. And so he went away, quote unquote, went away. Mm-hmm. And then after this whole thing happens, her and Joshua obviously break off their engagement. After John Bell dies, her and Joshua try to get back together, but she breaks off the engagement again, and she goes and marries this dude, this like professor guy.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so it's kind of like, okay, well, obviously he was the guy causing all the issues. Like he may have like helped Betsy fabricate all these things. He was into the occult already. He knew the folklore behind it. That's why it fits all these other folklore things. This is kind of that like single bullet theory / silver bullet that like knocks
Starting
this whole
at 12 years
story.
old, she orchestrated this with someone.
Yeah. I mean, her mom got married at 12 years old. Women be doing things early back then.
They were not women; they were girls.
Girls be doing things early back then. Like, you know, they're who knows? But the point being is that like they're like this kind of ruins the whole thing, if you will, for the paranormal side, where it's like you had one guy who knew about all this stuff beforehand, possibly could have fabricated all of it and stuck around because he wanted to marry this young girl. Like that is the most that is the Occam's razor of like this whole thing.
I think it could all still be just a tapestry of people motivated to fabricate this. Yeah. Or not just one thing, but like over the years, there's potentially a variety of things happening in the house: mental illness, abuse, whatever, or a young person whose father does not want her to leave. You know, all of these things.
And look, Don Decker,
they did not have the language to say this is domestic violence, this is mental illness. They had one set of explanations for things.
This is this deadly sin.
Yeah, this is sinful. This is Satan. This is a demon. This is a witch. This is,
The Don Decker thing was similar to this, where it was a group of people of reputable sources, like the chief of police, a couple that had nothing to do with anything, the landlord for the place. So if you guys haven't heard that one, go back and listen. Don Decker is one of those like stories that I always come back to in my mind, because I'm like, this has either got to be a huge, like everybody was together on it, or something really happened here.
And so that one drove me nuts, because I was like, why didn't the cops bring a camera?
Because it was the 80s.
Why didn't the journalists bring a camera? Why didn't anyone have any documentation? There were journalists. There were newspaper people that interviewed. After the fact. Day. Well, they came back. They came later that day. Anyway, listen to that one. But this one, obviously, I don't expect there to be any documentation aside from the stories themselves. And the stories, it could still be the same thing, where it's like over the course of several years, are you having false memories of like witnessing it? Did you hear the story so many times from your friends firsthand that it became your firsthand account?
Right.
Yeah, these things happen. I just heard the other day, it was just an interview with an actress talking about filming with another actress, and they were in a scene together where one of them had to punch the other one, and they accidentally punched them. And then 3 years later, the other person told the story and told it that they had punched them. Like, just completely misremembered who was in what role. Were you punched or did you punch someone? Like things that you would think you'd remember clearly, they just switched. Yeah. And somebody was more accurate than somebody else. But that's how, false memory can happen too. And it gets really reinforced from the whole community. It's like, now we all own this story together. Yeah. And if you say, I don't believe it, you don't fit in anymore. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. And I think
I got that vibe from the documentary.
This is a really good place to kind of just level set on what's going on this podcast. Right. Right. And I think there's a couple of different things you can take away from this. One is that Dustin and Onna are skeptics. And sure, I guess, if you need to put us into some kind of bucket, we might fit into that level, right? We're skeptics about creating a fantastical reason around something that happened that could be plausibly explained. Sure, we're skeptics about that.
Yeah, I think it isn't for me about poking holes in the paranormal as much as it is about let's look in context and let's look in psychology and let's look in culture and let's look in who we are and how
sometimes in
that's
technology.
A way more interesting story when you put the pieces of this guy moved his career and his family and his, in a time when, and he was an enslaver, and like what, and in a time when heightened religious and social persecution, like, and in a time when people were increasingly aware of what colonization did to our country. All of that is relevant to me. And then now, as a psychologist, I can tell you these diagnoses that we have now and the way they showed up in households and these illnesses have existed the whole time.
Yeah.
So we have all these stories, historical ones, where we don't even consider the psychology.
Right. And we should. And we should consider all aspects, right? And so that's it. It's not about trying to debunk, quote unquote, like the paranormal side of things. That's not it at all. It's about trying to find the humanity and the story within those paranormal stories.
Yeah.
So I just want everybody to think about that a little bit. And we have received some emails and some feedback on things where, it's like, I don't know, we're taking the fun out of it kind of thing. And I think we've talked about this before where I used to love conspiracy theories too. And I used to be like, these are so creative and so cool, and we've kind of seen where that's taken the United States of America as far as our political climate goes, right? Like there's like the whole QAnon thing a few years ago. And like just this like it gets out of hand. Mm-hmm. And the paranormal side, I still love hearing those stories. I still love getting the chills, everybody. Like it's not like I don't, it's not like if you put me in a situation where I didn't know what was going on, that I wouldn't also feel get a cold sweat or feel a breath on the back of my neck or something like that. And I think that's really important to talk about, but it's also really important to also like sit back and analyze what happened in a, I don't want to say rational manner, but in a more statistically plausible like manner where you're looking at it in through a lens of like, okay, rationally, what really happened? And I think we hear this story a lot from people who go through something like this, and then they're like, but at the end, I sat, a few days later, I was like, well, maybe that didn't happen. And like, you're always thinking in like a horror movie, you're like, no, that really happened. I saw it happen. It was in the movie. And it's like, but that was a movie. Right. And so that's a big thing. And of course, I love the horror genre. It's it is my favorite genre. I love those movies, and I love the stories that they tell, and for various reasons. But look, overall, we love hearing these stories. We want to hear from you all, and we want to hear what your favorite stories are and what you'd like to hear us talk about, if any. And we're not here to ruin the stories. This isn't Adam. What is it? Adam ruins everything.
That's Adam ruins everything. You're Adam ruins everything, and I'm Debbie Downer.
Yeah. Okay. Well, great. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Goodbye. Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Well, yeah. No, it's fun. It's storytelling, and I think that what we're bringing is storytelling also includes like possible alternatives to the story that we've been told.
Right. And I do think though that people are like, yeah, we get like our rational minds get that part of it, guys. Maybe, but if you have a psychologist in front of you and you can ask her questions and be like, but what would cause that in like what kind of psychological phenomena or what kind of psychological mechanism would cause that to happen? I would ask that question to somebody sitting across the table. Yeah. And I think that's what we're doing here is we are asking Onna, like overall, like what's going on here. The other side to this is, of course, there's a lot of technology stuff happening nowadays in more modern stuff that happens, right? So you see everybody using these spirit boxes, and you see everybody using EVP monitors using EVP recorders, and then using electromagnetic I can't think, EMF, EMF detectors and stuff like that. And that's kind of where I come in. But look, at the end of the day, again, we're not trying to ruin anybody's fun. It's more about just telling the story the way that it's been told, really, but then also analyzing it and saying like, well, what's going on here? Like, why wasn't this something that was thought about, during the story, or, what possibly could be the mechanisms here, like in a more level set kind of way.
Yeah. I think, I'm not feeling the need to explain, why we have these conversations. This is stuff that you and I would talk about exactly in this way in our living room. So you guys are just really getting to hear how two geeky people approach technology and psychology.
Those two people at the party that you want to steer away from.
Yeah.
Now you get to, here's an hour with us.
Yeah. But I'll also have fun with it because you love the horror genre. I love watching you entertained by ghost stuff.
I love to dance. She loves to watch me dance.
Exactly. No, I mean, I like the zombie genre. I like stuff that has a social and psychological element baked in, because ultimately, these as far as stories and entertainment go, that's what it's all about. It's all about what it does, how it makes you feel. What is it saying about us as humans and society? And I think these stories speak to a lot of that as well. And when we take them as fact, that's where I get to bring, well, maybe here's some other things that might have been going on if we want to look at it from that perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, with that, thank you everybody for joining us on this spooky Halloween night that can all be explained by psychology.
It can't all be explained by psychology. We have gaps. We don't know what happens after we die.
Yeah, fair enough. And look, guys, I don't know what this is going to look like as far as the podcast goes. I don't know if we're going to do one every week. I don't know if we're going to do it every month, every 2 weeks, but we're back and we're going to keep going.
More frequently than 2 years. Yeah. That we can.
More frequently than every 2 years. We promise you that.
We hope you listen. We hope you'll send in your thoughts, questions, story ideas, and hey, maybe we'll even bring you on sometime.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good night, everybody.
Bye.